Number 20, Killer Moth. Starting off my list with a surprise, Jerry Walker, aka Killer Moth, is a man who is obsessed with fame and notoriety. His first original Golden Age appearance depicted him as a criminal who just got out of jail and wanted recognition so badly. He invested all his money on designing his own Batcave, Batmobile, and wielding two .32 revolvers, later building a specialized cocoon gun and moth wings. Nowadays, in the Bronze Age, he is no longer so goofy, and the art is much more improved, but he still has his trademark weaponry, and is always trying to be Gotham's #1. The character even teamed up with Firefly a couple times, creating one of the greatest duos in the comic book world. Killer Moth is a character I believe anyone can relate to. We all want to be noticed and respected, and this character has such potential. A shame writers don't use him often anymore. He is so much more than a joke villain, and a serious story would do him justice. Number 19, Mad Hatter. Yes, I know it seems a little low, but with a list as difficult as this, I had to make an exception. Jervis Tetch, aka Mad Hatter, is a delusional scientist who became obsessed with Alice in Wonderland. So much in fact, he believed that he was the true Mad Hatter, and that he needed to find Alice, no matter the cost. Using his genius in science, he created mind control hats and would later become one of Batman's fiercest enemies, but one who can't fight very well. Here is a character that has been depicted in various ways, as a pedophile, as a lonely sad man, and as a despicable human being all around. But despite all this, he has never quite got many fantastic stories in the comics. However, his appearance in Batman the Animated Series is the most sympathetic and greatest version of the Mad Hatter, without a shadow of a doubt. Now it's time for tea time. Number 18, MAXIE ZEUS. From one delusional character to another, Maximilian Zeus, aka MAXIE ZEUS, used to be a Greek history teacher until his wife died and he went mad. He developed the delusional idea that he was the reincarnated version of Zeus himself, and that he would save the world. In the end, he became a crime boss, created his own team of Olympian gods, and would become enemies with Batman forever. Of all of Batman's delusional villains, MAXIE ZEUS is my favorite. Due to his psychosis being so vicious, he could be in a car crash and still believe he will survive. Because he believes that he is truly a god, and that he is the master of electricity himself. Number 17, Victor ZSASZ. The serial killer known as Victor ZSASZ was not always the sadomasochistic lunatic we know him as today. Born to wealth, he once was a very successful businessman and head of his own company, but when his family died, he became depressed and began to gamble until he lost his entire fortune, thanks to the Penguin. Poor and miserable, ZSASZ got the horrible realization that life was meaningless and that all life was suffering. He started to believe himself the savior of mankind and vowed that each person he killed, he would mark his own flesh to keep score. But worst of all, ZSASZ believes he is saving them from their misery, no matter how terrible his killings are. One of Batman's most sadistic villains, you can't help but feel a shard of sympathy for him. He wasn't always a murderer, but when ZSASZ states that Batman and he are one and the same, both predators of the night, both saviors of mankind, everyone knows how wrong he really is. Number 16, Black Mask. The man obsessed with masks, Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask, was born of the rich Sionis family. They made their fortune from the makeup company Janus Cosmetics. Growing up in the high class, Roman saw the fakeness of their lives all around him. He would always wonder why they would be so nice to their guests in the dinner parties, but so vain and narrow in their daily lives. This sparked his fascination with masks and identity. Later, as an adult, he burned his own mansion down, with both his parents still inside. But the black mask made from his father's coffin was his true self, the crime lord, Black Mask. An underrated character for sure, Roman is one of my favorites due to his calculating personality and deep fascination with Batman's identity. He is one of the few villains to personally know the Caped Crusader's alter ego, Bruce Wayne, and formerly his family, but he never found out that they are the same person, or at least, not yet. The theme of identity is just so fascinating. How he sees masks as someone's true face. He just needs some origin tweaks, like being dropped on his head as a baby, and being bitten by a raccoon? But yeah, Black Mask sure does have potential, overall. Number 15. The Ratcatcher. The master of the sewers, Otis Flanagan, aka the Ratcatcher, once was an actual ratcatcher, working with the Gotham Sanitation Department, until he murdered a man and was sent to prison for a long time. One day the judge who sentenced Otis to prison is eaten alive by a swarm of rats. Batman checks this lead and heads to the sewers, realizing that the Ratcatcher is Otis Flanagan and is controlling the rats by using a whistle, who is capturing and murdering all the men responsible for his arrest. Batman almost never beat him and will always serve as a phobia of whenever he goes into the sewers. Few Batman villains have a relationship with animals the way that the Ratcatcher does. Originally, he just commanded the rats with a whistle, but later writers altered that idea, stating that Otis had a telepathic connection to the rats, making him have a rat superiority complex, and believing that rats would inherit the earth from humans. Maybe his hideous looks play a part in that. Anyways, it's an interesting idea that I feel can still be explored. Number 14. The Ventriloquist and Scarface. One of the most bizarre villains of Batman's history, Arnold Wesker, aka the Ventriloquist, was born into an Italian mafia family, and everything seemed okay until he saw his mother get assassinated in front of him. Splitting his mind, he developed dissociative identity disorder. Wesker then became a ventriloquist to cope with the loss. He then created the dummy Scarface, a tough mafia crime boss who verbally abuses Wesker while trying to take over Gotham, using the drug Fever. This character gives Two-Face a run for his money in terms of his DID mental illness. Not only is Scarface a surprising threat to Gotham, he is the dominant personality in Wesker's head. If Arnold loses Scarface, he develops other personalities, as well to assist him with daily and criminal life. A weird character, indeed. Number 13. Killer Croc. Batman's most animalistic adversary, Waylon Jones, aka Killer Croc, was born with a horrible skin condition that made his skin develop scale-like growths on his body. He was disowned by his parents and was taken in by his aunt, who lacked much patience but did her best. The boy was mocked by the children whom he grew up around. He would later become a champion wrestler, earning the name Killer Croc. A little later in his adult life, he was imprisoned by Harvey Bullock and swore vengeance upon him. Getting the villain on Batman and Robin's radar, which in pre-52 continuity was Jason Todd at the time. He is the true king of the sewers. A character who is best sympathetic and tragic. As he ages, his disease robs him of basic human intellect and turns him more animalistic. He is a truly sad being who never asked for any of this to happen to him, which is why Batman understands him and will never stop his quest for Croc's redemption. Number 12. Poison Ivy. The beautiful seductress of Gotham, Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, was an up-and-coming scientist who specialized in plant life. As an adult, she attends Gotham University along Alec Holland, aka Swamp Thing, under Jason Woodrow, aka the Pharaonic Man. One day, Pharaonic Man seduces her and injects Pamela with a serum that mutates her into a plant-human hybrid, driving her crazy and amplifying her distaste towards humanity. She used her smarts and beauty to seduce the men of Gotham. For in her mind, plants are the supreme beings of the earth, and all humanity must be weeded out. Unfortunately, she never counted on Batman being there though. Ironic, considering she had an affinity for the Batman before her transformation. My favorite female Batman villain, Poison Ivy, is just the perfect seductress, and she can be as vicious as she can be sympathetic. Sometimes written as someone who wants to eradicate all humanity in Gotham. Except for Harley Quinn, it seems. Sometimes a woman who just desires to be alone with her plants. She values plants over humans, and she will always be on Batman's radar, for better or for worse. Number 11. The Penguin. The Gentleman of Crime, the Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, was in his original origin not a member of high society, but the son of a family who owned a bird shop. As a child, he was frequently bullied by kids for his looks, weight, and way of walking. When his father died of bronchial pneumonia, his overprotective mother made him use an umbrella wherever he went. But he worked out and learned how to fight, beating up all the bullies he possibly could. His love for birds almost made him an honest man. But when his mother died, and his birds were murdered by his oldest and meanest bully, he lost his bird shop and turned to a life of crime, which he sees as an honorable venture in his life. But of course, Batman does not. The Penguin is a villain I've always respected and appreciated, but I never quite liked him as much as the other central villains of Batman's rogues gallery. I think that the High Society outcast is a perfect mix with the character. However, his 1980s secret origin is the best one, and his umbrella gimmick is awesome. My biggest gripe with the character is just how sadistic certain writers take the character. The Honorable Thief seems to have been forgotten, but the pure nostalgia I have for this character is almost too much to describe. Number 10. Bane. The venom-enhanced genius from South America, Bane, real name unknown, was a child struck by misfortune. Sent to serve his dead father's sentence, the young boy was put in Santa Prisca with his mother, who would die shortly after, in the most dangerous, ruthless prison in South America, and seemingly would remain there forever. Very early on, the boy realized that he had to be strong in prison, as he had no one to turn to. He would read anything he could get his hands on, and would learn several languages over the years. But his phobia of bats could never be completely eliminated from his psyche. On one fateful day, however, Bane was taken to the science ward of the prison and was experimented on by the scientists at Santa Prisca. They had injected this new, strange drug known as venom into numerous criminals, but all their bodies rejected it. But for Bane, his body improved when being exposed to the chemical, and enhanced his muscle mass to inhuman levels. So much in fact that he escaped. However, Bane returned to free the prisoners. Becoming the top dog in Santa Prisca, Bane built a team of trusted individuals to one day escape the prison and go to Gotham. For Bane knew if he headed there, he could kill his fear permanently. Who doesn't know the superb story of Bane's origin? He is one of the greatest characters to ever be created. His second appearance in the comic book storyline Nightfall remains one of the most celebrated stories of all time. Plus, he is the man who broke the Bat's back and forced him into temporary retirement. Bane is the genius he thinks he is, but his nightmare, well, it never ended. Number 9. Ra's al Ghul. The Eternal Warrior was born in North Africa 600 years ago to Chinese nomads. He is the son of Sensei, one of Batman's greatest teachers. Ra's al Ghul was originally just a doctor who eventually left his home to Saudi Arabia in search of eternal life. Over the course of time, he found the Lazarus Pit, and it has kept him alive for centuries. He has accumulated a vast fortune and a deep skill of combat. He once murdered a sultan using germs on fabric, which at the time, germs were unheard of and not understood. He founded the terrorist organization known as the Demon, which contains the infamous League of Shadows. Ra's al Ghul's name translates to the Demon's Head. Sometimes he desires to destroy all of Gotham and purge it of corruption. Other times he wishes to purge the whole world to save nature. Despite what writers do with him, he is always respectful of Batman and views him as his heir. The second most enigmatic villain of Batman's history, Ra's al Ghul is a super dangerous fighter who commands an army of assassins. He helped bring back Jason Todd from the dead. Not to mention that his daughter, Talia al Ghul, loves the Dark Knight, and his grandson is Damian Wayne. Ra's, like his Lazarus Pits, will always be around. Number 8. Anarky. The most political Batman villain ever created, Lonnie Matchin, aka Anarky, was a bright teenager who was sick and tired of reading of the world's problems. So, Ronnie realized that the governments were far too corrupt to ever work, and that the people needed to fight back against them. He constructed a suit and called himself Anarky, a ruthless vigilante who would stop at nothing to rid Gotham of its corruption. Of all Batman villains, he is the one that without a shadow of a doubt isn't even a villain. Yeah, Catwoman is both an anti-hero and villain. But the only reason I put him on this list is that he is utterly ruthless, and many readers could disagree with his ideals. But good old Lonnie is just trying to save the world, and he truly means it. Batman is aware of this, but disagrees with his methods. However, he still respects him. I think we can all relate to Lonnie, as the world is filled with violence and corruption. We the people are the ones who must save our world, whether we're a kid, teenager, or an adult. Number 7. Mr. Freeze. The misunderstood snowman, Mr. Freeze, aka Victor Freeze, was once a proud, genius cryogenicist. Freeze wanted to save his wife, Nora, from a terminally ill disease, but Ferris Boyle, his boss, wanted to use his research for military weaponry. Freeze disagrees. Once Victor freezes Nora into a cryo-sleep, however, Boyle's men arrive and tell him to turn off Nora's cryopod. He refuses, and they kick him into a table of chemicals, mutating his genetics and making it so his body temperature must be in constant cold. Despite his transformation, he persists on curing his beloved wife, till the end of time. We all know Mr. Freeze's origin story. Paul Dini's Heart of Ice episode from Batman the Animated Series is like the Mad Hatter, in which it contains the most tragic and sympathetic tale of the character's history. The poor man only wants to see his wife healthy again, and Boyle had to ruin it all for him. Freeze is not an evil man, but in his quest to cure his wife, he commits terrible crimes and gets on Batman's radar. And that is why he always tries to find a cure, so that a man may finally be at peace. with his wife. Number 6. CLAYFACE. The monstrous shapeshifter of Gotham, Basil Carlo, aka CLAYFACE. Since there are so many CLAYFACE origins, I'll just discuss a bunch of them all in one, instead of choosing my favorite version. Carlo originally was a B actor who starred in a horror film, The Terror, where he played the monster CLAYFACE. He later hears that the film is being remade, and he snaps, for no one will take his glory from him. Batman and Robin then stop his killing spree and defeat him. Carlo then gets powers from all the other CLAYFACEs in the Mud Pack storyline. The most sympathetic version of Carlo's origin, however, is from the Batman Rebirth storyline, where it mixes the classic origin with the Batman animated series origin with a little something new, and mashes them together, creating one of the greatest pieces of literature I've read in a while. What to say about one of the most versatile and most powerful Batman rogues? Well, for starter, the title of CLAYFACE has been given to so many characters, it's crazy. Like Preston Payne, the second best CLAYFACE, to Matt Hagen, and good old Ethan Bennett from the 2005 Batman TV show. This character used to freak me out, and sometimes still does. He gives Batman a run for his money, and is a brilliant shape-shifting character. Number 5. Firefly. The patron of Pyros, Firefly, aka Garfield Linz, was an orphan alongside his sister. They were always promised a good home, but whenever they got a foster family, they were always sent back to the orphanage. His sister eventually got a home, but Garfield never did due to his pyromaniac tendencies. As an adult, he became a pyrotechnics expert, but his pyromania was too much for him to bear, so he lost that job and became an arsonist for hire, then for pleasure. He'd spend the rest of his life burning all the places he never got to visit as a child. He is a true challenge for Batman and made him build his own anti-flame suit. I don't care if I put him so high up on this list. He's one of my favorites, for sure. And anyone who doesn't think he's an A-lister, well, think again. Number 4. The Riddler. The king of conundrums, the Riddler, aka Edward Nygma, was always obsessed with brain teasers and knowledge. At school, he'd do anything to get an answer right. One day his teacher announced that there would be a prize of riddles given to whoever could solve the puzzle the fastest. Nygma, desiring the glory of victory, snuck out at night to his teacher's room. He practiced until he memorized how to solve the puzzle in no time. When he won the prize of riddles, he became even more infatuated with questions. Eventually, he would grow bored of using his superior intellect to scam people of their cash. He then became the Riddler to test the smarts of all of Gotham City. When it comes to puzzles, the Riddler pops up first in everyone's head. He may seem like an annoyance to some, especially thanks to the Arkham games. It is quite the contrary though. This man has given Batman a migraine and is completely compulsive when it comes to being right, but really, that is his downfall. Number 3. Two-Face. The two-faced crime boss, Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, was once a dashing and revered lawyer who had just become district attorney. He even had a promising alliance with Commissioner Gordon and Batman. Sadly, all this came crashing down as mafia boss Salvatore Maroni was caught and was about to go to prison thanks to Dent. So as an act of revenge, Maroni doused half of Dent's face in acid. permanently disfiguring him and causing him to go insane. Few may not know that Dent suffered from mental illness long before his accident. As a child, he would play a coin game with his dad, and whenever it would land on heads, he would be beaten. The coin was always rigged, and it seemed that Two-Face's destiny was too. Two-Face has earned his place at the top 5 of Batman's villains list because of not just his unique appearance, you gotta especially love his classic golden age green face, but due to his mental illness, how he struggles every day to maintain control in his life. He can't do a thing without his coin. His psyche seemingly is so deranged that he can come up with additional personalities, Wesker style, like the Judge who appeared in the new Batman Adventures. Oh, what an underrated character that is. Overall, Two-Face is the king of duality, but there is one villain who is superior. Number 2, the Joker. Oh yes, the clown prince of crime, the lord of laughter, the ace of knaves. It's the Joker, real name unknown, even though everyone knows his origin here. Or maybe it's all a joke by the clown himself. Here we go anyway. As the Joker tells us in The Killing Joke, he was once a failed comedian who just wanted to provide for his wife, an unborn child. On one fateful day, at a restaurant, he sits with a gang of criminals who ask if he would like to do a job with them. They explain that they want to raid the Ace Chemicals plant. Reluctant at first, the poor man thinks about his family and he agrees, telling them that he used to work there as a lab assistant, so he'd be a perfect fit. The day of the job comes, and the man hears that his wife has died in a car accident. Heartbroken, he no longer wants to do the job, but the Red Hood gang say he has no choice. They take a briefcase with the Red Hood helmet and suit inside. The job fails as the cops show up. The Red Hood gang are about to shoot the failed comedian, but they are both shot by the police. The man runs while Batman runs after him, and when they meet face to face on a platform above the plant, the man freaks out at Batman and falls into the vat of green chemicals. He wakes up, takes off his helmet, and sees his face. His reflection isn't what he expected, and he's horribly disfigured. With a big, wide grin on his face, he laughs uncontrollably. The Joker is born. The Joker is without a doubt the greatest failure of Batman. The one thing he will never forgive himself for. He has caused so much grief, so much death, including the death of Jason Todd. He even crippled Barbara Gordon. For Christ's sake, he even brainwashed a psychologist and turned her into his own sidekick, Harley Quinn, whom he doesn't even love most of the time. Aside from that, his looks as well perfectly mirror the Dark Knight, and everything he stands for is a spit in the face of Batman's ideals. We may never know the truth about the Joker, but in almost every incarnation of the character, from Nicholson to Ledger to Monahan, and of course, who could forget the legendary Mark Hamill and his legendary tenure as the Joker? One thing always stays true: the sheer insanity and terrifying presence of the Joker. And now, finally, my number 1 Batman villain on this list is the Scarecrow. As viewers of this channel are aware, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow. He was always very intelligent and, well, bullied by others. Nobody really liked him, and they berated him because of his slender physique. Despite the bullying and mistreatment, Jonathan took his fascination with fear to another level, becoming a professor of psychology, specializing in fear. One day, in the hopes of proving a point about fear, Crane took a gun and shot it in class. Unsurprisingly, no one took lightly to this, and he was fired from his position. Humiliated and depressed, Crane decided to get revenge on the board at the university and created his greatest invention ever, fear toxin. Fashioning a scarecrow suit, he called himself SCARECROW, who would terrorize Gotham for years to come. The mythos of Batman in my eyes was always meant to be gloomy, mature, frightening. Who better to encapsulate that than the Scarecrow? He is the symbol of fear itself. The perfect foil to the Dark Knight in a level that even the Joker doesn't feel. Because unlike the Joker, Crane does not have to hurt anybody close to him. He just has to give bats a good dose of fear toxin, and then he is locked into a sea of madness. People don't understand just how good he is. Most writers think he is just a plot device, or just a one-trick pony. But there's so much to tell, we just have to think long and hard. I mean, his fear toxin can show any phobia, and there is nothing more powerful than fear. Who better understands that than the master of fear? Well guys, that is my top 20 favorite Batman villains list. Celebrating 1 year on YouTube. My goodness, was this a bitch to edit. Here's to many more years. Don't worry guys, I know I haven't uploaded in a while, but I promise to upload more on here. Plus, if there's any villain you thought should have been on this list, please let me know. I realized that I left out some real classic foes of Batman, but this is just my personal opinion. And by the way, these numbers will always change. Well, for the most part. Anyways, please be well friends, and like, comment, and subscribe.